As the fierce Russian-Ukrainian battle over Bakhmut drags on, the US-made FGM-148 Javelin continues to shine as a symbol of Ukraine's stubborn resistance. As the Russians took heavy casualties, the streets and countryside of Bakhmut were littered with destroyed Russian equipment, especially damaged tanks that lost to relatively simple defense systems, especially the Javelin. Obviously advanced Ukrainian fighters have used raised terrain or structures at key points to engage and destroy incoming Russian tanks. As the Russian armored column entered the area at Bakhmut, their tanks became more vulnerable to Javelin attacks if they had no infantry support. Ukrainian troops equipped with Javelins would have hidden and moved faster, as they had no chance in a direct tank-on-tank fight in an open field due to the large numbers the Russians had. A startling video footage captured by a drone in the Bakhmut region of eastern Ukraine caught the huge, fiery explosion which followed the missile strike. Smoke and debris is thrown high into the air above as the Russian tank is torn into shrapnel in a violent blast. The Ukrainian military has given credit to Javelin missiles, designed by the US, for the brutal destruction of the Kremlin's military supplies. To date, the General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces said that Russia has lost over 759 tanks in Ukraine. In fact, tank losses have been so high that Russia is removing its Cold War-era T-62s from storage and sending them to Ukraine for frontline service, a desperate move. Besides, fighters of the 26th Artillery Brigade, Ukrainian, showed how they destroyed the mortar position of Russian troops in the Bakhmut direction. Ukrainian defenders also destroyed a cannon and an ammunition depot of the Russian forces. Commander of the Ukrainian ground forces, Colonel General Oleksandr Syrsky, announced this on Telegram, Ukrinform reports. Excellent work of the 45 Separate Artillery Brigade in the Bakhmut direction. They'd effectively destroyed a cannon and an ammunition depot of the enemy, the commander wrote. Recently, the advance of Ukrainian troops in the Bakhmut direction is the first success of offensive operations in the city's defense. However, this is only a partial success. Ukrainian Ground Forces Commander, Colonel General Oleksandr Syrsky, stated this on Monday. The operation to defend Bakhmut continues. All necessary decisions for the defense have been made. All possible scenarios of the development of events were worked out by the commanders directly at the site of the hostilities, Syrsky stressed. Meanwhile, Russia's defense ministry said on Sunday that 2 of its military commanders were killed in eastern Ukraine, as Kyiv's forces renewed efforts to break through Russian defenses in the embattled city of Bakhmut. According to Syrsky, the last few days have shown that the armed forces of Ukraine can move forward and eliminate the enemy even in extremely difficult conditions. We are fighting with fewer resources than the enemy. However, we managed to destroy its plans. All thanks to our fighters who are fighting against the aggressor, overcoming the highest limit of human capabilities, noted the commander and added, however, this is only a partial success, and that is how it should be perceived. In a daily briefing, the ministry said that Commander Vyacheslav Makarov of the 4th Motorized Rifle Brigade and Deputy Commander Yevgeny Brovko from a separate unit were killed trying to repel Ukrainian attacks. It said that Makarov had been leading troops from the front line, and that Brovko eliminated heroically, suffering multiple shrapnel wounds. The Defense Ministry rarely announces the deaths of military command in its daily briefings. The Defense Ministry rarely announces the deaths of military command in its daily briefings. It also said Ukrainian forces waged attacks in the north and south of Bakhmut over the past 24 hours, but that they had not broken through Russian defenses. All attacks by units of Ukraine's armed forces have been repelled, it said. On the other hand, Defense Ukraine forces carried out 710 firing missions in the Tavria direction during the day, destroying and damaging 31 units of weapons and military equipment of Russian. According to Russian and Ukrainian officials, the Ukrainian General Staff said Russian artillery and mortar fire hit settlements in the Kupiansk sector, namely in Kharkiv. The Russian Defense Ministry said that in the same area ground troops backed by air power hit 2 Ukrainian units. The ministry said artillery fire had prevented Ukrainian troops from rotating in the same area. An unofficial Russian social media account also said Ukrainian attacks had increased along the eastern Kupiansk front, but were making no headway. Ukraine reported artillery and other attacks by Russian troops in the Zaporizhzhia region. Where Russian forces maintained gains made in the first few days of the invasion, the Ukrainian army has honed their skills to shoot down Iranian-made drones with machine guns. Russian troops have used drones to launch attacks across Ukraine, including housing and civilian infrastructure. The Ukrainian military says it managed to shoot down the drone, even as Russia continued to change tactics. Meanwhile, more than a year after Russia's unprovoked invasion of Ukraine, and amid a historic crackdown on dissent, a handful of Russians continue to risk their lives and freedoms in a quixotic attempt to convince their country to change course. The General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces reported on May 14 that Russia had lost 198,880 troops in Ukraine since the start of its full-scale invasion on February 24 last year. This number includes the 620 casualties suffered by Russian forces over the past few days.